So we are finally in the Old Testament. This is going to be an overview of of the Old Testament, all the things you probably already knew, and a few things that you didn't. So, as I mentioned, things that you wrote down, uh, take some time and start to put those things in order. So the New Testament starts off with the Gospels. And in this new context, which is about 400 years after the last book of the Old Testament, the Israelites have been exiled. They're no longer only in Israel, they're all over the world, but they have come back to Israel and they have uh, essentially they've come back and but they're not in control of their land anymore. They're under Roman rule. The Gospels are four separate accounts, four different perspectives of the life and ministry of Jesus. And John the Baptist is also introduced in the Gospels. So, in the Gospels, you will find stories about the birth of Jesus, the wise men coming to visit him. And after the wise men leave, uh, the Lord gives Joseph a dream, Jesus' earthly father, Joseph, a dream, and says that Herod, the king, will be after Jesus, basically trying to kill him because of this prophecy that he's the king of the Jews. So he says, go into Egypt. And then years later, or sometime later, I don't think it says exactly when, he lets them know that Herod is dead and it's safe for them to come out of Egypt and come back into Israel. So they come back into Israel and they raise their family in the town of Nazareth. Uh, these are some of the early stories from these are some of the stories from Jesus's early life, in addition to the story of him being lost for 3 days and his parents finding him in the temple, sitting down with the scribes and the religious leaders. So after this, we jump to um, when he is baptized by his cousin, John the Baptist or John the Baptizer. Some people might prefer that description of him. And after he's baptized, he goes into the wilderness for 40 days and 40 nights. And he is tempted by the devil during that time. After he comes out of the wilderness, he begins his ministry. He starts to call disciples. He calls 12 disciples, and he moves to Capernaum. Uh, During the ministry of Jesus, you will find that he's doing through a few main things. He's teaching, he's doing miracles, he's healing, and he's casting out demons. Other than that, maybe he's associating with people or talking with people or eating with people that are not um, popular, or they're kind of outcasts. But other than that, these are the things that you will see consistently in his ministry: teaching, miracles, healing, and casting out demons. Jesus gets some opposition from the religious leaders, and they are referred to as the Pharisees and the Sadducees. They're essentially two different groups of people that have different beliefs about Judaism, which is the religion that Jesus is born into, Judaism, because he is Jewish. So the Gospels also chronicle the death of Jesus. They talk about his betrayal and his crucifixion. After he's crucified, the disciples scatter, and they basically are separate until he is resurrected. He's resurrected 3 days later, and basically goes and finds them and brings them back together. Um, the Bible talks about him being on earth for, I believe, 40 days, maybe 50 days after. I think it's more like 40 days. And before he is has ascended back into heaven, he gives the disciples a commission, or commandments, and he basically says, go into all the world and preach the gospel. and then he ascends back into heaven. And this is the first main part of the New Testament, the life and ministry of Jesus. And you will find those gospels here in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.